The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
SEC schedule drop, baby. We're going to talk about that and the Kaden Green situation. All that and a little bit more here on the Sooner or Later Sports Show. I am your host, Jay. Thank y'all for pulling up here on the YouTube channel and listening wherever podcasts are downloaded and listened to while you're here. Please wipe your feet, like, subscribe, rate, review, give us 5 stars. You don't think we deserve it? Let's go ahead and give us 5 anyway and gift it. So on today's episode of the Sooner or Later Sports Show, we're going to have some fun because we got some guests. We're going to talk about the SEC schedule. We're also going to dive into this whole Kaden Green situation. We're going to talk about how are we going to beat Alabama because we got Ty from Around the Table Sports here. And we got PG that done pulled up with Coop. Gentlemen, how y'all doing today?
Can't complain.
I am
Hear that?
I'm a little frustrated because obviously we're about to shut down the football program, and before we do that, we obviously had to get slapped in the face because, what do we do with these teams in front of us? So, on to college softball, I guess, because football program
Down the bowl. I can totally see that. Ty, let the people know where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me at Around the Table Sports here on YouTube. Every Wednesday, you can find me on Bama Football on YouTube with Kyle Henderson. That's a lot of fun. He is at the ground in Tuscaloosa. He's there asking Nick Saban questions. He will be on site whenever Alabama takes on Michigan. We're going to do something special for that. But until then, catch me on YouTube at Around the Table Sports.
Always good stuff through the haze throughout the week is always fun. I try to show up whenever I'm not working to come hang out with Ty. It's always great stuff. PG, you're a resident here. Let people know where to find you.
I am a resident, but people don't want to find me right now because Oklahoma football is dying. You don't want to hear my takes on that? No, y'all can find me on YouTube, The PG Show, Apple, Google, Spotify as well.
Heck yeah. Well, you kind of got a point there. There's a lot of death happening in Oklahoma football. We done lost players. We done the schedule just dropped, and I've seen a few people already be a little negative on. I got my guy Dwayne here. He's already telling us that we're at best 8-4, but most likely 6-6, and then we're gonna lose basically all the SEC games. I love it. Nah, just messing with you. I don't think that it's gonna be bad, man. It's gonna be fun though. But let's talk about that first, because Ty, we had to have Ty on here because the SEC schedule dropped. We got to see what an SEC schedule setup looks like, and I gotta ask you this time. I think I'm gonna lead this off with you. I've got Bama's schedule up here. Y'all have 5 road games and 7 home games. Is this like the tradition, as old as the game itself, for the SEC?
It'll happen that way. Last year it certainly felt like Alabama was on the road every other time I turned around. But then you turn around a year like this year, you get some big games at home. So it's just kind of one of those things where it's the luck of the draw. But yeah, you're gonna get some home games.
Yeah, because we're gonna start with Alabama, and then we're gonna come over here into Oklahoma's schedule. And I said that specifically because when I looked at this schedule, I'm looking here at the Wisconsin game is going to be interesting for Alabama. And then you get that bye week, which I think is so critical before you host Georgia. That, to me, is huge. And we'll talk about, of course, more of that in the Oklahoma side. But then you bring all the way through no back-to-back road games, which is another key thing. But the open week before LSU on the road, the Mercer game before Oklahoma, but you got Oklahoma on the road and then Auburn coming to the crib. How does that? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, first off, we're not going to Jordan Hare, so Auburn to me is going to be a non-factor until then. But in seriousness, I'm interested in what they do at the quarterback position. They are doing some big things in recruiting right now. Nick Saban is currently attempting to spoil that party. And I think I think the Grinch may have stolen Christmas, and on signing day we're going to have a lot of fun. But Oklahoma's going to be a great game. I love having Mercer in between LSU and Oklahoma, right? I mean, if you're going to have two big games in between that, LSU, Oklahoma, get Mercer in between there, because that's going to be physical, man. I mean, you look at the schedule, you get Wisconsin, you get Georgia, you get South Carolina, Tennessee, Missouri, LSU. By the time you get to Oklahoma, Auburn, that's a lot of physical football, real physical football that's being played. I like that Mercer game in there, kind of give them a break, and then taking on Oklahoma and Auburn. Yeah, I'm excited, man. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I think what's funny is that Wisconsin game in there and how physical we know that's going to be, because that's Big Ten football. Big Ten football is infamous for being treachy, all about physicality. That jumped out to me. It's like, man, that's a road game. Then you get a break, luckily, but you still play at Wisconsin. Then you got Georgia coming to the house. Man, that's a tough one. So let's look at Oklahoma real quick. And, of course, that is the game. That's the reason why we're here. All these Sooner fans in here. As you look at this, we only got 4 road games this season. And it feels like in so many years, it's probably going to be like this often, because the one big one for us is Texas, right? We're, quote unquote, the home team against Texas as we're playing Red River. Next year, we'll be the road team, and that will probably count towards the road games we, quote unquote, have in the SEC. It feels like that's part of the rotation. And so the things that jumped out to me first, I'm going to pass this around to everybody to kind of give your thoughts on the schedule, is first off those two bye weeks, and then the quote unquote third bye week, which is the SEC game of the season. If y'all watched the video I put out earlier, you understand what I mean. You got bye week before Texas, which is huge. Maine before traveling to Missouri, which is huge. And then a bye week right before Bama, and then traveling to LSU. No back-to-back road games. That, to me, is a big one for us. And especially since we've been best at home, that's helpful to us. Coop, start with you. First off the schedule, win a shot. How'd you feel about it?
I like it. I mean, first of all, if Missouri can somehow have a decent year, like you got a little trip up there. I mean, you got Tulane, which I mean, that's never one you just want to gloss over. We had trouble with Tulane a few years back. They've taken one of our friends out west to the woodshed. This is a good team, but I believe that is it Pratt or Platt, and I think he's off, right? He's gone after this season. But that's still a well-coached football team and still a lot of good talent. Heupel comes back to the crib on September 21st, and there's going to be some emotions around that. I got to think that the administration probably celebrates him a little. Ricky Bobby, I guess it'd be Cole, but a little confused by your tactics. You bring in, you celebrate Heupel, and then you go to town. It's going to be Nico versus JA. So that's going to be that's going to be a great quarterback matchup. Auburn, they're putting together a phenomenal recruiting class here this year. I believe that they're number 11 on 3, so right behind Texas and Oklahoma. I mean, what do they look like with Hugh Freeze going out there? To OU Texas, back at the Cotton Bowl. That it's going to be what it is. So that back half of the schedule ending with Bama and LSU, that's tough. What's quarterback look like at South Carolina? Who's taking snaps at Ole Miss? At that point, Missouri. This is about as favorable as you could potentially see. I mean, obviously Alabama, LSU back to back, because whoever started for LSU at quarterback is going to have a full season under their belt. I'm a little ticked off about Bama on Thanksgiving, because that's typically when I like to go hunting. So that means I got to come back into the cabin, watch the game, which, it is what it is, but let's see it. So, but again, if you have any complaints about this schedule, go check out Georgia's schedule. Georgia got dealt one, a little bit rougher. So, I feel good about this. I mean, there's no, God bless all of them, but there's no Texas Tech, Okie Light, anything like that. This is big boy football time, and I'm here for it. So, let's go. Did we lose Jay? Did Jay bounce? Jay left us?
He left
Yeah,
us.
he might have disconnected. But PG, what are you thinking about that schedule?
Here's what I'm thinking. Oklahoma, outside of Texas, has a 75-29 record against these SEC opponents. Now, the majority of those are going to come from Missouri, but Oklahoma's got a couple interesting headlines here. You've never beat Ole Miss. You've never played South Carolina. LSU currently holds the record right now in that series matchup. So I think Oklahoma's going to have their hands full. Now, I was talking to Jay about this just a minute ago. That Alabama and LSU game, I don't like it at the end of the year, but at the same time, I do. It's kind of like a love-hate thing for me. I don't like it because that's a game that could get you seriously beat up before you have to potentially go play in an SEC title game. And then at the same time, it's good because you got an opportunity to get your crap figured out. We all know what kind of crap we're talking about, specifically the offensive line. I think a lot of people are going to have questions about that. Have an opportunity to figure all that out before you go play the big dogs. So I think it's a very favorable schedule for Oklahoma. I look at it and go, if Oklahoma goes out there and takes care of business, they can easily have 10 wins on the schedule. You could replicate what you did this year, next year. But if they go out there and they overlook teams like, because they're not going to overlook an Alabama or an LSU. They're going to overlook somebody like Missouri. I told Jay, I said, I instantly look at that Missouri game and go, that's the trap game. Because I sat here and told everybody Missouri was going to go win at 8 or 9 games this year. They won 9 games. They played Georgia tough every time they played Georgia the past 2 years. Missouri's got some dogs in that team. They're returning a lot of guys. Oklahoma cannot overlook going on the road to Columbia, Missouri, even though you'll have a good showing of Oklahoma's fan base out there. You can't overlook that team. I think that's the week before. Well, you got a bye week after that, but it's the game before you have to go play Bama at home.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
And then you look at Bama and PG. I don't disagree with you one bit about playing Bama and LSU at the end of the year. It's a double-edged sword, right? You get them back to back, but you get time to figure out your situation. The flip side of that coin, they get time to figure out their situations as well, right? And that's kind of the double-edged sword there. Is y'all are going to have time to figure out your stuff. They're going to have time to figure out theirs. And when we look, Pro Football Focus put out something the other day that I found really interesting, and it was the most snaps played by freshmen this season by team, the top 10 list. You had Clemson, you had South Carolina, Miami, Texas A&M, Florida, Virginia, Stanford, Georgia, Alabama, Baylor. Bama has a lot of young talent that will be coming back. And so I agree with you. I think OU playing Bama at the back half of that schedule is great for OU, but as a Bama fan, I think it's great for Bama too, because being in the top 10 in the nation and playing freshmen and snaps, that just means they're going to have all that much more opportunity, those reps, going into the back half of that schedule. So, I think it's going to be an incredible schedule from an entertainment perspective, from quality college football, and I think it's great.
What should I be expecting with Auburn on September 28th with Jordan Hare? Because I was
How much
telling
sage
Jay,
do you have?
I was telling Jay, I said, I don't believe in none of that voodoo against Oklahoma.
How much
Maybe
sage
against
do you
Bama,
have?
But I have none.
Well, I would bring a lot.
It's yeah, and
Come on.
I mean it's you look at. I mean, if you look at this, there's nothing bad about the schedule. I mean, outside of that Bama LSU, but there's no 2-week spot where you can like really get busted for overlooking somebody if you're doing the right thing, right? So that Tennessee and then at Auburn and then Alabama and LSU are probably the only 2 spots to where you say, all right, guys, let's really get in here. But PG, I'm not against you as far as like the at Missouri thing. I think that from a culture perspective, if you get that offensive line situation figured out, and lots of good news coming down the pike here, but yeah, I mean, if you get that thing figured out, Jackson gets to stretch his legs, which is a good thing. And when it comes down to just the SEC in general, I mean, we actually get to enjoy some really, really sweet football. And first year in the playoff picture, I don't think that you look at that Alabama LSU outside of do you get yourself beat up a little bit? Outside of that situation, you can afford losing something, right? You can afford losing a game here or a game there because, I mean, you go through the SEC. PG, did you when Ed McMahon just show up at your door, or did My Little Pony come on the TV?
Oh, never mind. Okay, God, I thought I just got God. Never mind. You can continue to go. I thought Oklahoma just landed somebody. Never mind. Go ahead, go.
Okay. So, I don't know, but I mean, I don't know what's going on with Jay. Hopefully he paid his internet bill, but look at Georgia here, and I'll read this off. Georgia starts out the season August 31st versus Clemson and Atlanta. So right off the bat, Ty, you just dropped that nugget about the Clemson playing young players. I mean, this is where that stuff's going to start showing up. Tennessee Tech, at Kentucky, that's never just an absolute walkover. They get the bye, and then Alabama at Alabama. You got Auburn at home, Mississippi State at home, and then at Texas. You got the cocktail party here, Florida, November 2nd at Ole Miss, Tennessee back at the crib. Nico is 10 games into the season. You get the SEC bye, and then at Georgia Tech. So, I mean, whereas you see Alabama and Oklahoma kind of have a little bit more of a backloaded schedule, I mean, we'll know who Georgia is probably by mid-October because, I mean, they're going to run that gauntlet pretty early.
What do we think about?
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to ask what we thought about the Texas schedule, but go ahead, Ty, because that's another whole topic.
Well, I think Coop pulls that one up. I'll just say this. PG, you were talking about how you think that in a lot of areas the Oklahoma schedule is favorable. I completely agree. And I really like how you start off the schedule because you get Tulane. And Tulane is a really good team. Like, they just are. Mm-hmm. They're very well coached. They're a solid team. You get that before Tennessee. Coop hit that so well about Heupel at Auburn. I don't think there's a better welcome to the SEC environment because this is what I will say about Jordan Hare. Even in years where Auburn is terrible all year, like just not good, that environment is wild. That they do have a great atmosphere. I got to give it to Auburn consistently. That is a great atmosphere. That's an amazing entrance to the SEC for your inaugural year. The bye to Texas. I think you have a very favorable schedule.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that, guys. For some reason, my Cox internet decided to just stop literally in the middle of everybody talking. So, yeah, everything looked weird. But I'm caught up now. I was able to watch a little bit of video on my phone to try to figure out what everybody was saying. But yes, let's talk about this Oklahoma schedule real quick, and I'm going to give my quick points on it. The Tennessee one, I like you pointed that out, Coop, because we played Tennessee, and it's going to be the Heupel homecoming, so we have a good opportunity to just distract the hell out of them and win that game. The Jordan Hare traveling, yes, I've got Sage, so I'll be prepared for going out there. The bye week before Texas is great. I think, and as mentioned, I think PG mentioned this, us going all the way up against Alabama and LSU at the end of the season really lets us figure out what the heck we're doing with ourselves and being better prepared. So it's going to make it a very fun game for both of us because, as you mentioned, Ty, you all played a lot of young players. We did too. I think we had like 4,240 snaps. I think Miguel Chavis tweeted that out of freshman and redshirt freshman snaps on the season, which was one of the tops in the country. We played a ton of young players. And so that's going to give us that opportunity as well to gel going into that Alabama game. And so having that break, though, I think that really does help us a lot, too. That's super favorable. Y'all play Mercer, so that's basically your bye week as well. So You'll just be probably a bit more polished and can sit certain players if you need to, so they can rest and be healthy to go up against Oklahoma.
Saban ain't sitting anybody.
Fair point.
That's not the Saban way.
He's going to.
I'm thinking if they're injured. I'm thinking if they're injured, like if there's an injured player that.
Well, then, yeah, they're not going to.
Yeah,
play.
that's what I meant. More so, an injured player that you probably don't need to push it with him. Give him another week, then they can play. I figured that's the game to take advantage of for those players that you're like, yeah, he's banged up. Because, I mean, as you mentioned before, you got LSU the week before, and you're at Death Valley.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and
it's going to be a lot of muscle in that game.
It's crazy. Bama has done really well at Death Valley here, like over the last 5 meetings they've had in Death Valley. They've done actually better. They had the 2 shutouts in Death Valley.
Yeah, that's Saban's second home.
They do really well there. I'm excited, man. When we look at Alabama, just to go on a tangent as to like what Oklahoma can expect Alabama to be replacing, both edges, Chris Braswell and Dallas Turner, got first-round grades. Terry and Arnold, Kool-Aid McKinstry are going to have first-round grades. So already right there, they're off. I think J.C. Latham, first-round grade, he's off. Malachi Moore probably head off. Key will probably head off. I think in terms of a Boygby, he's probably gone, which is exactly why you see all the smoke with LT Overton. He'll be there this weekend. Quick point on him. His dad worked for the university for a while. There's a lot of connections with LT Overton, and they like him to slot in to take over when Justin Boygby goes. So Bama's going to be replacing some key areas, man. Like the depth at edge is great. Keon Keeley was the number 2 player in the nation last year, but the replacing Dallas Turner, Chris Braswell is huge. And I've told this about Jackson Arnold to you, Jay. I know what type of quarterback he is. Right? Like I've already seen what I need to see. He is a dude. And so you got to be able to put pressure on him. So they got to figure out that edge position.
Did I just? Yeah, you know what? I'm not going to discredit that Alabama's got to replace some guys, but I would rather replace the guys that you're talking about than try to replace a whole offensive line going into the SEC.
That's true. That's tough. That's tough.
Let's not act like you're situation.
You have beaten Bo, right? And we when we get into that, we'll expand. But like, no doubt, that's tough, right? Fair point. But you have beaten Bo, and you just kind of have to trust him.
Ty, thank you so much for saying that, and thank you for leading us into the transition of the next topic, because I feel like that's the one thing that we need to go ahead and address and people need to understand. Before I do that, make sure y'all wipe your feet, hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Thank you all for hanging on with my people while I dealt with my internet issues. We're back up and running like we're supposed to be, baby. So let's talk about that. Kaden Green deuced us. He, based upon reports, I've seen multiple reports. I've watched Gabe and Teddy Lehman on the Oklahoma Breakdown, and Gabe gave all kinds of the information on there. And I believe him because of his connections. I mean, he's on the sidelines on game day, right? He talks to the offensive linemen. He pumps them up. He befriends a lot of them, and he's close with Bede and Bo and everything. And Ty, that's why I thank you for stating that, because we know that Bede and Bo has always found a way to put together a really good line, even in situations that are in turmoil. I mean, we've had situations where we've had a few players, we've had a few people where they, get drafted. So like this year, we got 4 dudes that is going to head to the draft, 1, and then Kaden Green hitting the transfer portal. The rumor is that Cayden asked for a particular amount of money, came to us with it. We came back with that number for him, and then the next day he hit the portal.
Don't say Cayden asked for that. Somebody else asked for that.
Fair. One of the two.
Let's be clear.
Well, I mean, my understanding is that Cayden met with the coaching staff and asked for it.
Yeah, but it wasn't. It wasn't. I don't think it was.
No, listen, man. This ain't a 5-year-old.
We're not doing semantics here. I'm doing the person that physically asked the question was him. Now he may have been guided by agents or other people.
Yeah,
but it's him, and now he's in the portal. So far, don't know.
I mean,
we're asking the question in the chat. I don't know.
Yeah, so as of right now, he's not in the portal. And I trust Gabe. Man, I got to keep my thoughts organized because this is one where I will, I might lose it. But if you were on last year, there you go. If you were on last year when the Peyton Bowen to Oregon thing went down, my exact words are, if that is who he is, we don't want him here. Now, Peyton proved that that's not who he was. You know, we just got kind of caught into a love triangle with him, his mama, and Notre Dame, and Oregon got tossed in too. Bless their heart. They get what they deserve. But this situation, when Gabe comes out and he says, okay, I mean, a staffer during practice, Bedenbaugh is in Florida recruiting. A player-led practice is going on. Some of the coaching staff's out there, but your position coach is out. Your head coach is doing something else. He intentionally was doing every bit about that because I believe that these reports are true because it didn't just come from Gabe and Teddy. Now McQuistion has kind of came out and said the same thing. A lot of people are saying the same thing. So if a staffer is driving by and they see him unloading his room and packing up, and they said, "What's going on?" Like it's so far, like he is leaving in the transfer portal was so far away from what anybody considered that I've heard even like, "Did you have a flood? What's going on? What's happening? Can we help?" Like that was what was going on. Is can we help? And his answer: "Talk to my pops. Grown ass man, go talk to my daddy." So, I will back Teddy Lehman 100% on here. This is how cowards negotiate. If you're going to bounce without leaving, with any type of stand-up, that's a coward. So then Curtis Lofton comes in, and he starts having a conversation. And if he starts having the conversation and he says, talk to my dad. And through all of that, so from the understanding of we have a guy who came in Texas. He did pretty well there. And then kind of like Lincoln Riley's situation to where at that point, you know, his eyes started wandering. He's gone. And it's his family wanting more money. And I don't know, you know, we've all seen The Waterboy. And we've all seen, you know, the Mama versus Bobby Boucher situation. At some point, he either needs to let Daddy go play on the offensive line, or he needs to stand up and be a man because I'm not going to use bad language, but Teddy said it right. That is a coward's way out. So I don't know if it's USC, if it's Oregon, if it's Missouri, but he asked for money. We said, sure, yeah, we got this. We can handle that. And then he took that number and he bounced. And he went and shopped it around. And I'm saying he by his pops. And now a screen share of another uncle's coming out. So this ain't on Bedenbaugh. Yeah. It ain't on Bedenbaugh. And for everybody who was just drilling Bedenbaugh, walk it back. Because dude can't prevent that if he's in Florida talking to EPL and recruiting and doing his job. Now, does he have faults? 100% Bedenbaugh has faults. But this situation is 100% family members getting involved when they should not. And that's where it is as of right now.
I love that the question is easy from Muleshoe. That's like the funniest one of all of them that I keep seeing come up here. But Ty, you're on the outside looking out, and you heard the news. I know you were just as shocked as me when we had it going through our group chat or whatnot. What do you think? What came to your mind whenever you saw that populate?
Yeah, I was completely shocked. Now, I haven't heard all of the nitty-gritty as to what happened. I've seen bits and pieces on Twitter, but I've been out of the loop in terms of exactly what happened. You know, it's the transfer portal era, man. We talk about this all the time, Jay. The funny thing is what was it, last Thursday, a week ago, we did a segment on Through the Haze, why tampering is legal. Like, we did a full-on segment about how, yeah, tampering, quote-unquote, is illegal, but there's such easy workarounds currently in college football that it might as well be legal. If a player hits you up and says, hey, I think that we could get you around this right here, and we'd love to have you over at this institution. That's not tampering, because then you're going to have to prove that the player did it at the behest of the head coach. Like, you actually have to prove that. And if the player just says, "No, man, I met him at camps a while back and we gelled and I'd love to play with him," you pretty much will have an open and shut case unless you can present evidence. It sucks, first off, for Bill Bedenbaugh, because the guy has produced so much in terms of development, and Kaden Green was a big piece for this Oklahoma team moving into the SEC. If I'm not mistaken, you have to replace every offensive lineman now.
Yeah, we got all 5 we got to replace now because
And
he was number 5 in that cog.
it was an offensive line that took until the end of the year to start gelling as is. And Kaden Green was the first freshman captain, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And so that was going to be the cornerstone of the offensive line, and he's no longer here. It is awful. I hate the way it happened, especially because of what I've heard and the way Coop is telling it. If you're going to leave, fine. We can have our disagreements about that. But at least meet with your coaches, meet with your team, and say, "Hey, thanks for the time. It's not working out. I'm going after this," and head out. Because then we can say, "We'd love to have you here. We didn't want you to leave, but at least you left with telling everybody," and stuff like that, right? Like, it's a respect thing. OU put the time, the resources into coaching him, putting him into a position to succeed, and we know what kind of offensive line coach Bill Bedenbaugh is. So part of the reason why I say it sucks for Bill Bedenbaugh is because you have a bunch of people running their mouths on Twitter saying this guy doesn't deserve to be here. What do you mean?
Yeah.
I mean, genuinely, what do you mean? Everybody says he can't land the 5 stars. He's not landing the blue chip 4 stars. Isn't that all the more impressive that he continually has Oklahoma's offensive line in a position of success, that he continually pumps out these guys to the NFL without having that?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just looking at this the inverse, right? Like, don't get me wrong. I love Coach Walford at Alabama. Hell of a recruiter, great developer. I can't say a bad thing about Bill Bedenbaugh. I can't even say he can't recruit, because look at the guys he does recruit. They turn out to be great players. So you have to put faith in Bill Bedenbaugh. This sucks. The transfer portal era has a lot of things that need changing, gentlemen. I'm for the transfer portal. I'm for NIL. But there were a lot of coaches that foretold that we would end up right here because the NCAA is spineless.
Yeah. That's what the biggest problem comes in, is that they didn't take a chance to just get it taken care of. They wanted to pass the buck on to somebody else to fix it for them. And now we have this big unregulated piece that's set up. Now, granted, the big thing for me, and this is where I don't fault the kid who's going to get that money, but the thing that probably bothers me is that it does seem like there's some tampering in here, and rumor has it he potentially started the shopping process right after the really good Texas game. Don't know. I've had people send me some DMs and say, "Hey, I've heard this, I've heard that." I don't know, but I'll say this though: it's the way that he decided that I'm just gonna go ahead and just disappear and go talk to Pops. That ain't cool. Like, it's give. And I heard that they finally answered phone calls late in the evening, but why sign something if you presented that exact same number here and we said, "Okay, we'll do it"? And Gabe said it wasn't little. It's pretty significant. And he's that type of talent. As you said, Ty, going into the SEC, he was the cornerstone of the line. So it's not ironic, but it's ironic how the move out happened while all the coaches were gone. Right? It happened while nobody was in town. And it's like, craziness. But I know a few of y'all want to hear about that. PG, got anything to wrap us up? We're going to move on to the back to schedules.
No, I mean, this is just all the more important why Oklahoma needs to go out there and land a guy like Gino Vandemark, former teammates of Spencer Brown, because at least there will be some chemistry between those two. At this point, if I'm Bill Bedenbaugh, you want some talented guys, but you need to get guys that have played with each other, or you think that can mesh with each other really quickly, because now that you're having to replace 4 was going to be hard enough, but now that you're replacing 5 guys, luckily you have potentially 2 to 3 of them on campus already. You have 2 centers, and then you have Jacob Sexton that could potentially vie for starting spots. So maybe you're only having to replace 3, but I think it's important that he goes out there and at least gets Geno Vandemark, gets some chemistry right here in this offensive line, and can get something going forward into the SEC. Luckily, you start out your SEC schedule with, Tulane's not a cupcake team, but didn't Fritz just go take another job? So, I think these are as cupcake as you can get as your start to the SEC schedule.
And that's actually what I wanted to point out, too, with the way the schedule's set up. I know people are mentioning Tulane. Tulane's kind of got gutted because Fritz is gone, and they're going to start losing a lot of players. That's going to start to rotate, and it's going to take some time for Tulane to get back to that. That wheel is not going to be running like a well-oiled machine like it did before because Fritz is gone. He's gone to Houston, and so he's restarting over at Houston. So we'll see him still, but he's at Houston. And then so Houston and Tulane are still trying to figure out what they're going to do next year. That is where I'm not concerned. I like the fact that we got 7 home games. That helps a lot in easing a lot of my anxiety because especially with Houston and Tulane, because of them having coaching changes, it usually takes about a year to get what you want, especially with the mass exodus of kids that we saw leave Houston last year. And they're doing it again so far. And Tulane's starting to see some of those guys make moves and go different places. So
yeah. Now, I want to say this before we move on, though. It would not shock me down this up to National Signing Day to see Oklahoma flip an offensive lineman that maybe we didn't have our eyes on, because now that there is a whole line open, you might have some offensive linemen lining up saying, "Ooh, I got a chance to start first year." So keep an eye out on potentially a flip happening. It's a chance now.
And Jay, let me say this too. Here is everybody watching, whether you're a Bama fan or whether you're an Oklahoma fan, college football fan. There are all kinds of programs that you can do to help contribute to the NIL. And when you contribute to the NIL, whether it is a monthly lower reoccurring donation, you don't got to give a $5,000 check. Like there's situations where you do $30 a month. I promise you, if you call the Crimson Cream Collective and you say, "Hey, can I do like $50 a month?" They're going to say, "Yes, you can." And that is where I would say is vote with your dollar. Is show that not only after the situation we're still here, but it will unite us in this deal. Because though I don't think it is, there's nothing to do. Listen, Danny Stutzman and Billy Bowman aren't at practice yesterday because our NIL is broke. They didn't stay in college because we don't have money. We've got money. But continue to push in because, it's frustrating because when I sit here and I think, I was like, you know what, I do a contribution and that's frustrating to me because, I'm ponying up money to help these kids, get what's theirs. I'm not opposed to NIL. I'm not opposed to transfer portal. But the moment that you accept NIL under a college scholarship, and if you want to say, like, leave him alone, he's just a kid, no, hell no. He's just a kid making at least $60K, if not a lot more. And from what I'm understanding he asked for, I'm not going to treat a kid like a kid if he's making $700,000. No. Listen, you grew up once you signed that NIL deal, and so this is tough. We've got a humongous group of very, very, very talented, physically talented individuals, plus some transfer portals. Hopefully we don't have the 6-game ramp up period with Beanball and that offensive line like we typically do. But I would say this is we have. This is all done now, and hopefully we can start, really focusing in on who is here, because in conversations, PG, I know that you talk to the players quite a bit too, but in the conversations I've had with the players, they're already given that verbiage that you hear in the NBA or the MLB or NFL of, hey man, it's a business, and if he can get it, then better to him. But at the same time, if you listen to, I can't remember if it was Eddie or if it was Kerry or if it was Josh, but somebody was talking to McKay McTire, and right when it happened, and it sounded like McCade was like, no, this can't be true. Like, I'm genuinely concerned that something's wrong here because they went to war for so long together, and now this all happened. So, it's just show the team your support, whoever it is, because these guys, it does mean something to them, and have faith that everybody that still is here, their parents are rallying, and it's that's all I have to say on that.
Hey, we got some dudes from the 23 class that might be able
Yeah.
to step up. So
Look, I mean, as I was about to say, I mean, we've got Heath Uzeta as well as Logan Holland out there on the offensive line, Uzeta and Logan Holland on the line that I think can step up. I mean, there's a reason why, as Ty mentioned, Bill Beatonbow knows what he's doing. There's a particular reason why we can say that. But okay, let's go into some portal stuff real quick, because when this popped up, this I mean, I don't know about y'all, but I was a little bit shocked in a way. Now, we all know that, there's one dude in here that wasn't shocked, because if you ask him, he been telling y'all this for like 10 years that this was going to happen. And PG talking about Malik Murphy hitting the portal, right? And I think it's interesting that he hit the portal before the playoff game.
Yep.
Timing of the portal.
Why?
The quarterback spots are filling up across the college football landscape. My question is, isn't it interesting that this news came out? And I'm not saying there's a connection, but isn't this interesting? This news came out right after Kyle McCord stepped away from the Nebraska position.
Yeah. I mean, we're still looking to see if Dylan Raiola is going to, flip.
I'm just saying, Dylan Raiola has said it multiple times. It doesn't matter where he goes. He was willing to come in Lincoln Riley's offense and sit 2 years. Like, Dylan Raiola is under the understanding he only needs 1 year to get to the league. So, I mean, I'm not saying there's anything there, but maybe Malik Murphy sees Nebraska as a potential landing spot. And after that Kyle McCord news dropped, that's when Malik Murphy entered his name into the portal. So,
I personally, he's a Cali kid, right?
Yep.
UCLA just lost their quarterback, right?
I mean, yeah, Dante Moore's gone. And USC ain't got one either.
USC ain't got one either. Auburn doesn't have a quarterback. Here's the thing with Nebraska. They lose Kyle McCord when all of a sudden it gets real serious that Dylan Raiola's there. I know you're not wrong, PG. They've said that. I think part of the allure with Nebraska is Dylan Raiola can step in day dot and play. He's a legacy there. He's got family coaching there, and I think they're putting together an enticing NIL package for him. So this is really interesting, though. PG, you've been talking about this happening for a while. I don't think it's super surprising. Truth in the chat saying UCLA is who they were up against for him whenever he committed. I listen, that's an interesting school to watch in this recruitment battle is UCLA. But I will also say Auburn. Jay, we were talking about Auburn. They've missed on Grayson McCall. It looks like they're going to miss on Cam Ward. They've missed on a lot of quarterbacks, and they're getting a lot of wide receivers in this class on a thought that they were going to get a transfer portal quarterback. This is a great opportunity for Hugh Freeze to go out there and get a big-time quarterback that can stretch the field.
Ooh.
So, what about South Carolina, though? Because Jay and I were talking about this earlier.
That's not a bad one either.
South Carolina ain't got a quarterback.
No, that's a very fair point, very good point, PG. That's not a bad one either at all. This is an interesting one to watch for sure.
Yeah,
yeah.
And I'll say this: South Carolina's got a good offensive line coming in.
They better.
Yeah,
dear God,
they're better. They're better than they were last year. So the experience and the gelling looks like it is. You're right. They're going to be better. But it's fascinating that, and I get it, true. That he had to get in now. That he had to go in early because spots are, filling up. But I mean, if, everybody tampers. So if there's tampering involved in here or whatnot, he's already got a landing spot most likely. And so he didn't have to leave yet. He could have waited if he really, based on the way we know how this works. He'd been texting with one of his friends somewhere that's trying to get him connected with a coach in some capacity. We know the game. Ain't none of us dumb. But the running joke, of course, is if you go into the portal before the playoffs, you're traditionally considered a what? A Jag. which I hate that's probably what the situation that we're at right now.
I mean, the thing is, though, Malik Murphy isn't a 5-star recruit hitting the portal after the playoffs, so and he's got 2 5-stars that he's going to have to compete with at Texas. So if this was a 5-star hitting the portal now, I would have questions. But because at the end of the day, if you're a 5-star and you hit the portal after the playoffs, there will be a spot for you. Somebody will take you. But in his position, with as little, I think, as he's put on film, I think the spots would be a little bit slimmer, and he might have to go to a G5 school after the playoffs. As if he gets it now, he could probably still go play Power 5 football and be a starter.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And let's be honest, why would you stick around at Texas knowing that they ain't going to invest that time in you?
He needs the spring, right? Like being a quarterback, if he's going to vie for a starting position next year, he needs a spring to get acclimated to the guys, to the system, to the coaches. If he misses this first portal window, he's going to have to hit the second one. He's not getting there until May. He's not going to start practicing until August. Man, if your quarterback battle is starting in August, bless your soul. Bless you. You're going to have a fun year.
Yeah,
No, you're right.
I mean, when it comes to Malik, I mean, if you line up Ewers, Malik, and Archie, I mean, I'm more freaked out about Malik. I still am at this point, even after watching him, because it looks like without any type of first team snaps, dude comes out there and kind of looks like we thought he was going to be. And so I don't know, frightening truth. When Homeboy said he was coming back, I mean, how did that make you feel? Because I still got some receipts on him being the number 6 overall pick prior to the year. And I mean, I understand it's a loaded class this year, but at the same time, man, that's got to put you back a little bit, because I mean, that's kind of the same situation of us saying, "Hey, Dylan, appreciate everything you did here, buddy. Can we get your bag? Is there anything you need from us, or we all good here?" So I mean, it just I just feel like he did. Truth said it. It sounded like he really wanted to be at Texas. And I sure as hell didn't want him to be. But the big thing is what if Quinn gets dinged around a little bit in this playoff game? Now who is the backup?
Arch, baby.
Well, I mean,
Arch Manning show. So everybody
to put
doing
it in fairness, Malik Murphy didn't play well for Texas this year anyway. So, I mean, is it going to put them in that bad of a spot if they put Arch out there instead of Malik Murphy?
From everything that I've seen with my eyes, Malik Murphy looked like a guy who didn't get playing time. Arch, still at this point, doesn't look like a guy who deserves playing time.
I didn't get to see Arch enough to say where he's at, and he's a true freshman. But I think Malik Murphy is a guy that we know his upside. Only question is getting him that experience, right? But even they know his upside. He's a dude.
That's a good one. Okay. All right. Next player that came up. PG just shot me a message on, which is a great idea. Walter Nolen. Now we know he's everywhere, right? It seems like he's traveling the globe to figure out where his home is. He went to Alabama. Did he go by Alabama yet?
No, he
I
went
don't
to
think
Oregon.
Alabama's pressing super hard right now. They're inquiring, but right now the press is on Overton. That's the one they're after.
So you're starting to see this exodus really go down that we kind of anticipate. The minute that E-Rob took that job, these Aggies are bouncing left and right. And so Overton Bama was looking at him. I think Nolen was looking at Georgia and a few other schools. And I remember Bama was sniffing. I didn't think that he made a visit or anything yet. I was wondering. PG, I'll let you lead the way on this, man. What are you thinking when it comes to Walter Nolen, where he could potentially end up?
Yeah, so Walter Nolen's going to take his time, right? And as I just talked about with Malik Murphy and the quarterback situation, Walter Nolen is the number 1 defensive lineman, number 1 player in 2022. People are excited about this guy. He is a guy that could wait until April, and there will be a spot for him on a lot of people's teams, right? So Walter Nolen's going to take his time. What's interesting to me, though, is this week he's going to be at Ole Miss. And Ole Miss is also favored to land that edge rusher, Princey, I can't think of his last name, out of
Yeah,
Florida.
Priestley, yeah.
Like,
Alien.
Ole Miss quietly putting together a really solid defensive line, because I think they landed a 5-star defensive lineman or like edge rusher last year. So I'm curious to see if Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss are able to move the needle with Walter Nolen. If I had to pick, though, I think Oregon's going to win it just because I think NIL is still going to potentially be a factor. I don't think it's going to be as big of a factor as it was when he picked A&M, because I believe that he understands he needs some form of development at this point because he's draft eligible after this next season. And he hasn't put anything on tape that would lead you to believe he is a first 3-round pick.
No.
Hey, come roll with the Tide. You only need 1 year.
Hey, he can
This
roll
guy.
with Todd Bates, too.
Either
Yeah,
that or
he
you're going to
makes
become either that or you're going to be put under a microscope, and when you don't perform, now you're toasted. Whereas you can go to another team that maybe is maybe can hide a little bit more of that. I mean, like I'm just saying, you're not going to play, Saban's not going to put you in if you're not producing, to hell with that. And I think that what
Saban
did
ain't
you say
gonna
about
go get you if
Raiola
he
was-
don't think that he's gonna be producing.
no.
Yeah.
But
Especially from
kind
the
of like you said with Raiola, with Raiola thinking that he only needs 1 year to prove what some of these cats coming out of A&M feel like they just need to put 1 year on tape and they're going to be back to being a 5-star. And there's none of those guys have really set the world on fire or even heated it up much.
Well, there are guys that have set the world on fire, but they're not the 5-stars.
No.
Yeah, they're out in the portal. For the most part.
Well, and it's crazy. The edge from A&M, who was probably the most productive player they've had from that front enter the portal, he's Alabama's looking at him as well.
Yeah.
I mean, Alabama, Georgia, Oregon, like, let's be honest. I know a lot of people don't want to hear it. Oregon's going to be in these battles. They were in these battles more often than not, more often than a lot of people want to admit. All these schools are going to do is they're just going to clean up on the players they should have gotten to begin with. So
I wish that Bama would get Nolen. I just don't think they will. I don't think Bama's looking to do much in the portal. I think Overton is like the guy they'd really like because of the past connections to Alabama. They wanted him out of high school.
now, are y'all going to take Micaiah Overton too?
I don't think it's a package deal anymore because they were talking about how they understand that at this point it's probably not going to be feasible to do package deals.
Yeah, and it makes sense. Hold on a second. We got a super chat from Berkey. Thanks for the $1.99. Hearing Oregon, could he follow Dylan Gabriel? Now, there is this picture floating around of Will Stein, the offensive coordinator for Oregon, at a hotel in Norman, the Noun. There's a picture of him floating around. Someone took a picture and said, who is this? And there's an Oregon gear. You saw the Oregon shoes, and when you look at the side profile, looked exactly like Will Stein. So he was probably in town having a conversation with Dylan Gabriel. That was right before Dylan decided to commit. And you never know. There could have been hey, tell your offensive lineman we got some money for him if he wants to come. I don't think DG would do that, but at the same time, I don't put anything past anybody. I mean, he was his left guard. He was protecting his blind side the whole time.
Yeah, and Oregon's offensive line is plenty good enough as it is.
Yeah, and Jay, and I'll say this too. I don't think that coaches were required to come talk to CG's people. I mean, it sounds like Kaden Green's dad was going out to coaches and saying, "Hey, I got this. What do you got?" So, I mean, maybe I'm just dead wrong about this, but I mean, I think that they're traveling looking for money, and what's going to end up happening, and I'm starting to kind of feel if this might be. I hate that we're going back to this, but
yeah.
What happens if he can't get an offer? Does he come back to Oklahoma, or does he all of a sudden start backtracking on the money? Because once that dollar figure starts going, Jay, you've been in sales for a long time. Once that momentum shifts, and now the team is like, you were wanting 350. I mean, we're all good. I got 100 for you if you want it. Now all of a sudden that money starts going down, and now you've just tarnished, burned bridges, and people are going to hate you somewhere in the world at all the time. and you just lost out on money. So
My-
I mean, maybe it's
My question though is, could he come back to Oklahoma at this point? Like, would the staff take
No.
him back? Like, I don't think they would at this point. I know they're saying that they're trying. I think that's to make Oklahoma fans feel better. I think I'd move on at this point. You don't want this.
I have a little bit of an analogous story for y'all, and I'll tell you
Give it
why
to
I
us.
don't think OU would take him back, because Alabama had a situation very similar to this last season. Now, I'm not going to say names, but Alabama had a player who, out of nowhere, was starting, and a good player on the offensive line, offensive guard as well, ironically, come and say, hey, I'm going to hit the portal unless I get X amount of dollars and you get my girlfriend into law school. You know what Nick Saban did?
Oh, let me help you with that.
He said, there's the door.
We don't do package
True
deals
story.
around here, buddy.
He said, there's the door. By all means, go find your place, but it ain't here. And he was a productive player this past year. But guess what? Now Bama has, I'm not saying that they are the best guard tandem in the nation, but man, I'm very pleased with the sophomore guard tandem at Alabama of Tyler Booker and Jaden Roberts. They are maulers, very excited about their trajectory. I say that, I bring that up. BV, Bill Bedenbow, Todd Bates is a Bama dude. In fact, I'm on the Bama Standard Tuesday nights. A lot of those dudes I'm on that show with, they were on the roster with Todd Bates. They know Todd Bates. A lot of them will text Todd Bates. They're cut from a very similar cloth, right? Like, there are certain things you can come back depending on circumstances. I don't think this is a circumstance. If it's true that it was one of those things of like, you acquiesced, I love this word, you acquiesced to the request and they still said no.
yeah.
Sorry.
I'm with you on that. Okay. Let's talk about some of the most recent commits. We just got 2 transfer portal commits in the last 48 hours. That's kept me busy. I'm tired, and I've heard that we've got some more coming down the line. I'm exhausted. Let's talk about this one first. Deion Burks. Y'all saw my video on him. I was excited when I synced him. Pull up. Coop, let you lead the way. How you feel about this young man deciding that he wants to be a Sooner?
Guys, this is not a guy that's coming in to provide depth. This is a guy that would probably be preseason All-America if he was at a better school. This is a guy who's going to come in and could vie to be the starter from day one. You've seen a couple people across the waves. I saw a Tyreek Hill comp. I've seen Devin Hester type of a comp. This guy, he is a smaller receiver. He is slippery as all can get out, and he is stout and he can stay on his feet. I think I mentioned it when we were talking last time, but one of the very, very first clips in his highlight film was him taking, stretching pretty well for a pass, and then him getting hit by 3 or 4 people, spinning out and looking like Adrian Peterson, against Oklahoma State or Tulsa, but just turned and ran for 60 some odd yards. Like, this is a dude, and this just took if we can block for Jackson Arnold, it's going to be 4th of July all year long.
That's a good point. Ty is the man on the outside looking in. Deion Burks. What you think about him coming from Purdue and making his way underneath Emmett Jones' tutelage?
Yeah, I think it's a big-time addition. And, Jay, this is why I told you when I thought y'all were going with your offensive coordinator decisions, I thought if you were going to do co-OC, it would be Seth Littrell and Emmett Jones, because Emmett Jones, in my opinion, is your best asset on the offensive staff in terms of recruiting right now. He is locking down that position. He came in, immediate change in wide receiver play, and he's got more experience calling offenses than did the other option. But look, Emmett Jones continuing to prove he is that dude. This is a huge
Freaking
game.
guy.
He's
a freaking guy.
That's why I was super surprised it was not Emmett Jones that got co-OC. But Joe, listen, if they like the Joe John Finley, they're in the room. If they say they like him, there's a reason. So exciting stuff.
That's a good point. PG.
I'm excited for Sam Franklin. I'm excited to see if he is able to, I guess, hit the field at all for Oklahoma in any significant role. And I think the jury's still out on if Javonte Barnes will be 100% healthy next year and be back to what he was in 2022. So I guess we'll have to see there. But
Talking
I'm
about
excited.
Deion Burks.
Oh wait, we're not talking about Sam.
We're talking about
Franklin
Burks.
yet.
We're
Oh,
talking
you're
about
talking
Deion
about
Burks.
Here, are you doing two shows at the same time? What's going on here?
Yeah. PG's
I
all
know.
over
I
the
had
place.
this. I had
PG,
to
you
use
need a
Sam-
Snickers.
I
You need
had,
a Snickers.
I had Sam Franklin, I have Sam Franklin pulled up on my computer. No.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
we're talking about Burks, wide receiver. So, and to add to that, get what's your thoughts, PG. Then
I'm excited for Deion Burks. I had questions though, and I got to talk to Jay about this earlier. If Deion Burks would play in the slot for Oklahoma, and it sounds like he's going to be more of a piece to fill in for Andrell Anthony in case Andrell Anthony's not 100% of what he was this season. But I'm excited because I mean, at this point, I feel like you have what you had in 2021, but with a more elite wide receivers coach. Because in 2021, you had a stacked wide receiver room, but you didn't do anything with it.
Yeah.
I think after what we saw last year, I think it's going to entice more wide receivers that are of equal talent to join in the same class. And then, hey, you have a talented guy in the portal. He's willing to come in and compete because he knows of the development that Emmett Jones has. And I don't think for a wide receiver, you have to go out there and put up gaudy numbers to do well in the NFL draft. I feel like you can go put up good numbers, perform well in the draft, and as long as your tape shows that you're running routes well and you can catch the ball and you don't have a lot of drop passes, which I think Emmett Jones can teach these wide receivers, I think you can go do pretty well for yourself in the NFL draft, and I think players are going to see that. So I'm excited for Deion Burks, and I'm excited to see what he's going to bring to the team if Andrell Anthony is not able to take that starting role at the start of the season.
Yeah, that's the question. Is going to be how healthy is Anthony, and he had a knee injury, torn ACL, so that means we've got time for him to get healthy. We'll see what that looks like. I'm gonna give him. I'd say by fall we'll definitely know if he's gonna be able to start at the beginning of the season or if they're gonna have him either potentially redshirt or something of that nature. But the question here, Jeff asked this one: what about Petaway and Thompson? Petaway is a freshman. He's a redshirt freshman. So he's still there. We're still going to probably see some run with him. But I think Brendan Thompson's going to spend some time on the outside. I think it'll be between him and Deion Burks. And I say that because the good reason you have a player like Deion Burks is because twofold. One, we're going into the SEC, which means that number two, injuries are going to potentially happen. You're going to have a lot of people getting hit, a lot of people getting leveled. You're going to have a lot of contact going on. And that's where it's important because this season, that was one of the problems we had. We lost Andrell Anthony. It took us a couple of weeks to try to get back up and running because Brendan Thompson was hurt. He hurt his ankle in spring in fall camp, and he wasn't ready until like close to the middle of the season. He had that ankle problem. And so when you start seeing these injuries start to pile up, takes away from what you're trying to do. Now, the good thing is with the Seth Luttrell offense and the way that he likes to do things and spread things around, we'll probably see some 4 wide setups, and we're going to be seeing wide receivers all over the place, which I'm hoping that we can potentially get Jackson Arnold a 4,000-yard season this first year going. That's how much passing I think we're going to do on top of the run game. So I think we'll be fine. The good thing is with the stacked wide receiver room and a young quarterback, as long as they're able to sync up, man, it's going to make things a lot easier for Jackson Arnold going down the line personally.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Brendan Thompson's going to be more of your super, like if you need somebody to deep threat quickly, that's going to be his role. And Brendan Thompson, listen, he only needs to go catch one pass a game, and he could end the season with 400 to 500 yards in receiving. So Brendan Thompson's talent. I'm excited to see what he's able to do next season as well.
Yeah, Thunder OU Sooners. How do you prevent those type of injuries? Put them in bubble wrap, and that's no joke. It happens. It's just the unfortunate luck of the draw sometimes. It happens.
It's guys, I mean, somebody said it in the chat. This could easily be I mean, a top 5 wide receiver room in the country right now. And we don't know anything about what Burks will be here. We don't know what the step up in Petaway is going to be. And then we got a few cats coming in the freshman class too, who they're not going to come in and be like, oh yeah, this is a pretty loaded room. I think I'll just take a seat for a year. These guys are going to want to play too. And so this is going to push. And I mean, what is it? Are we at the 1 year anniversary for Emmett Jones yet? Because I mean, Ty said it dead on. I mean, like, dude, what more could you ask of him? He took the weakness of our team, and it damn near was the strength of our team.
He's about to start working on 2026 and recruiting.
Yeah, he actually is. That's the scary part about how good he is at his job.
He got that. There's that one kid that's a 27 guy that's already getting offers out, and I don't know if we've already thrown it out his way too. So I mean, it's, guys, this is an air raid offense led by Seth Luttrell. So don't get too crazy to think that you don't throw Farouk as the running back look several times just to show it, and then all of a sudden you saw him out and you're running a 5 wide. And so what are you going to do? How are you going to do that? Because Jackson Arnold could take off too. And that's also a better set to run if your offensive line needs a little assistance.
Right.
And
so we got a super chat real quick. Let me get this in here. Eric, thank you so much for the $20. We really appreciate it. Love the show, guys. Just want Jackson don't want Jackson running for his life every game because of the offensive line. Eric, I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna keep it a buck. Like we talked about earlier, I ain't got no concerns about beating Bo and how he's gonna figure out this line. They've already got a whole bunch of dudes in the portal we're going after, on top of the guys we've been developing. We'll be fine. I think it'll something be put together. It may take some time for it to gel, but the good thing is when you look at their schedule, guys, I think we got a little bit of time before we need for it to really gel. I mean, we got 3 games before we hit Tennessee at the crib. I think as long as we're able to do that, I think we'll be okay.
I would argue. Go ahead.
Ty, I got a question for you. We were looking earlier today in the Discord, and OU gave up 17 sacks this year. So if you triple that, you get how many? Let me make sure my math is right. Darn near triple it. You give out how many Alabama gave up. So I mean, you guys are in the playoff, giving up 41 sacks this year. It's going to happen in the SEC. You got to minimize the damage and all that stuff. But I mean, Ty, if you sat here and said, hey, Oklahoma fans, what if you all gave up 3 times the amount of sacks? We would have lost our damn minds in this chat and been like, no. So don't freak out too. Like, there will be growing pains.
100%. I also think part of that helps when you have a world-class athlete as your quarterback, right? Where if your offensive line is bad, you have genuinely maybe the most athletic guy on the football field at all times in Jalen Milroe, who can just say, okay, I'm out of here, bye. But no, that's a really good point, man. That is actually because Jackson Arnold's mobile. Jay, to your point, I would actually roll with the guys I developed out of high school. You and I have talked about it.
That's true.
If we look at who the best offensive lineman in the portal is right now, you want to know the sad answer, who it probably is? Well, he's not in the portal yet, but when he enters, it's probably going to be Kaden Green.
Yeah.
Because if we look at, like, grading-wise, he graded higher than the guy that y'all pulled from Michigan State in terms of pass blocking. So portal, if you want a line to gel, portal is a tough thing if you're like, oh, we need a line now, because those guys, some of them aren't going to be coming until May, meaning they don't start practicing until August. You see live action at the end of that month, and you're just now figuring out what's your middle name. That's a tough recipe, and I put faith in who Bedenbaugh has recruited. Jay, you named the guys earlier. They're talented dudes. I think it's good to patch up a few things from the portal. You got a Tyler Guyton who is unbelievable, but we saw what happened with like a Colorado who tried to use the portal to patch up that offensive line, and they got lamb blasted.
Yeah, they fully replaced theirs. So yeah, but no, it's a good point. Like we've got Bates and Everett. You've got Ozeta, you got Howland, you got
Jake Taylor, Jake Sexton.
We've got linemen.
It's not as in bad a shape as people think.
Yeah, right. We just need to fill the depth behind them
Yeah.
really is
fair.
where
Well,
your concern comes in.
That's fair.
in my
Very fair.
opinion, I think you go with, in my opinion, I think you go with either obviously Everett or Bates at center. You go with Sexton. You roll Kelly out there if he's ready, and then you go with Spencer Brown and Geno Vandermark. And I think that gets you a good chemistry on that offensive line to start, and then from there you can piecemeal.
Did
and
you just
shuffle
break
pieces
some news,
around.
PG?
No.
Because
Vandermark ain't committed yet.
Vandermark ain't committed nowhere.
Well, he can come here. He can come here.
I mean, you break some news or something? Because that's what I'm trying to figure out here.
I mean, he's got the offer. He's got the offer
yeah,
from
the offer.
Oklahoma. So
He does.
I mean,
He does.
And,
He does.
I mean, the thing is, he was teammates with Spencer Brown. So if he ends up at Oklahoma, I mean, and it would shock me to see him end up in an Oklahoma uniform at this point. So
I got you.
To be fair, talking about the transfer portal, there is a little bit of an asterisk there. It's Bill Bedenbaugh navigating the transfer portal. So once again, you put faith in Bill Bedenbaugh. If he's one of those coaches that in the portal, even though Jay, you and I have talked about it can be notoriously difficult to get offensive linemen, you trust a Bill Bedenbaugh to wade that pond and get the guys that he likes.
That's a good point. All
And-
right.
And last thing is, before we head this out, I believe that Michigan right now it has 3 portal offensive linemen.
They're well coached.
And they're very well coached.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Sharon
that's
is
a good
it.
point.
So there you go.
Yeah. Sharon Moore knows what the hell he's doing. So, okay. Real quick, last one. We just picked up a running back out of the portal. DeMarco Murray does what he does best. He brings in a dude from UT Martin, Sam Franklin, and 5'10", 5'11", 195 running back. He likes to break tackles. And I think that's one thing that you like out of a running back is one that knows how to break those tackles. So, PG, you mentioned him before. Talk to me. How you feel about
yeah, no,
Sam?
I feel great about it. I've already had people in the comments though telling me that this is not a big pickup for Oklahoma, and I kind of disagree. You've lost 3 running backs in the transfer portal, and although you have some talented guys coming in through the 24 class, I don't feel like the depth is as much there as everybody thinks, because you really don't have as much production and you don't have as many guys that are that experienced. You have Sawchuk, who this is going to be his 3rd year in a college football program at this point. You'll have Javonte Barnes, but Javonte Barnes didn't put up anything last year that was significant. You lost Howie Walker. You lost Marcus Major. People will argue to say Marcus Major, was not a loss, but regardless. And then you lost one of your shining stars in Smothers. Then you got Caleb Hicks, who I think saw the field maybe 2 or 3 games. I think this is a great take because you're going to the SEC. I said it in my video. You're going to have guys banged up at the end of the year. You're going to walk into Bama and LSU, and I guarantee you're going to have at least 1 or 2 running backs that are not going to be able to go at 100%. So having guys like this that produce, I don't care where they produce that, underneath DeMarco Murray, I'm excited about it.
That's a good point. Ty, what do you feel about adding Oklahoma picking up another running back, especially with the fact that we lost 3 in the portal?
Well, I'm going to go and watch some of his film because I'm not super versed in him, but I will say this. If he can do one thing, it will have made complete sense to me because you have a good running back room. It still makes sense taking an experienced running back. And once again, DeMarco Murray is one of those guys where you got to trust him. Tawi Walker was a guy that I think when he signed to Oklahoma, a lot of people were like, it's going to be a simple depth piece. He turned out to be a damn good player. Here's the thing, PG alluded to it. You need someone who understands pass protection. And if this guy understands pass protection, that's going to be his route to playing. Because he's already obviously incredibly talented with the ball in his hands, right? Like lightning in a bottle. But if he understands, hey, the blitz can be coming from here. I got a young quarterback, 1st year starting. I'm a veteran here. Brand new offensive line, but I've played college football. That blitz is coming from right there. He picks up that block. That's the difference between a touchdown and a sack fumble, real bad play. That's where an experienced running back like this is huge. You get someone that has the ability and can diagnose things like that. So I'm excited to dive into his film to see that because if he can run block and knowing DeMarco Murray, DeMarco is going to get someone that can run block, right? I have no doubt about that. I think that's a really underrated thing. Everybody's going to talk about the ability, deservedly so, but those little things right there are going to be huge.
Yeah, and I think that's the most important one there is the ability to block. And so, yes, Tyree Walker is still practicing. He's in the portal, but he's still practicing with the team. So there's a possibility of a reunion. I don't know. Can't
Love his
say
game.
yay or nay. But I would love for him to stay around. And that just adds additional depth, especially for the injured portion of it. But watching Franklin run, I mean, he ran for 1,378 yards, almost 1,400 yards and 11 touchdowns last season, right? And the thing is, he breaks tackles and he keeps going. So, I mean, you can say what you want, competition, whatever. He ran for almost 1,400 yards. Not everybody can do that. Like, no matter what level you
play football.
Right. Football players play football. I love that. And I think that there's potential there for him. And if he shows enough, if he cracks it, I mean, he may not make it here longer than a year, right? He may not be here longer than, I mean, because he'll be a redshirt sophomore. I mean, he's a redshirt sophomore now, so he'll be a junior going into next season. You know, he has a chance to either leave, stick around, whatever. But the question is going to be for us is health in the backfield. We came into the season with our two backs banged up in Sawchuk as well as Barnes. They were banged up. That's why you didn't see much Barnes the rest of the season. Sawchuk got healthy at the end, and he looked comfortable with that hamstring, and he got his 4 straight 100-yard games. Yeah, if he doesn't have another hammy situation in the fall, yeah, buddy, we'll be good. And then add the additional backs. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about what we've got going. So, all right, we're gonna wrap this up. Coop, what you got?
1,400 yards. That's all I got to say. I mean, 1,400 yards. I mean, the dude was running. You know, if you can come in, spare whoever the running backs are at the moment, you know, let you know, come on in. And I mean, if you can run for 1,400 yards and some of the dips and ends like that, he does pretty well. He can make a man miss, which again, if you're putting together a new offensive line, we're going to need some guys who can make a man miss because. You know, Kennedy Brooks and Eric Gray, his last year, they were great at that stuff. And this year, we weren't very good at that. And it made a huge difference in being the number one rushing team in the, you know, Big 12 to what we had this year.
Yep. PG, what you got?
On Sam Franklin? Because I thought I just
Wrapping up.
Well, somebody in the chat's
thoughts.
asking about tight ends and name to watch, Bauer Sharp. Could see that
for
one
him.
fall pretty quickly.
That's a good point. Ty, I'll let you give us the final words before I kick everybody out and let y'all enjoy y'all's evening.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you can find me at Around the Table Sports tomorrow. Going to have a busy day of content. Going to have some recruiting news. We're going to talk about a battle that Oklahoma is in. Very excited about that video because this could be a real big name for OU. We're also going to talk some Alabama recruiting as they look to flip a player from Miami. And I love Flipmas, guys. Love Flipmas. Happy to be here, Jay. Thank you as always.
All for it, man. Thank you so much for pulling up. And everybody, we're going to go ahead and take our butts to bed. Thank y'all for pulling up to the channel. Thank y'all for hanging up this late. Please wipe your feet before you go. Hit that like button if you're new to the channel. Subscribe. Please go check out Around the Table Sports. Show him some love. Same thing for the PG show. Give that man the flowers he needs. And so try to use a safe shirt to stream. No, I'm at the Nintendo Step Brothers shirt, bro. Y'all, you tripping. Anyway, thank y'all for pulling up. Like, subscribe, rate, review. Give us 5 stars. I don't think we deserve it. Just give us 5 anyway. And with that, we'll chop it up with y'all. I don't know. About a day or two. Peace.